You want to talk at all about this AT&T?
Not in the least.
Piece from Moffett-Nathanson?
Not in the least.
You don't? Not in the least?
Of course, I had studied it all morning, but now, because he wants to talk about it, I'm like, no, I thought that piece was damning with faint praise, frankly.
Alone at last, moving to their post-spin target of 19. Of course, we are going to be focused on AT&T and Warner Discovery very soon because they are going to be two separate companies, let's call it within a week.
Okay.
Something like that. In a week, maybe this deal closes. Maybe, within that time frame, sooner or a little later, I don't know. But let's just say by the middle of next week, these are going to be two separate companies. $19 is what they look at. What do they say? Well, they say it's tempting to think of this moment as a fresh start. Unfortunately for AT&T, the damage done by their acquisition of Time Warner and by their earlier acquisition of DirecTV. Actually, they say that was the more damaging deal.
Yeah, wasn't it interesting?
Can't be undone with the stroke of a pen. Still over-levered. And the core businesses are weaker for having spent several critical years with attention focused elsewhere. All that said, Jim, it's not expensive.
No, they said it was, 6.5 times earnings?
Trading it. I mean, right now it's trading at 7.9 times their estimated 2022 EBITDA. Moffett-Nathanson.
But that means they can't make the
positive
numbers, David. The stock is telling you they can't make the numbers. And you see how much copper they have and how much they have to do and the CapEx.
They're spending a lot of money on I talked to Greg Maffei about this yesterday, and challenging the incumbent cable providers by putting fiber in. They are spending a lot. They are a wireless and a wireline company. That is what AT&T is.
Well, how about the fact
obviously with a different...
Moffett praised them for reversing very quickly after they took on way too much debt, but that they did not clear the books. I thought that was really kind of a...
Well, they didn't change their leverage ratio to a large extent.
No, they didn't, but they weren't able to discover.
Now, they have changed the way they account for certain things in terms of expenses. We talked about that during the last quarter. At this point, they're sort of going to be flat for a bit, and then they're expecting, obviously, to move up in terms of what they're going to be generating from EBITDA. But it's going to be interesting. We are going to be talking about this more when the deal closes itself. And not just AT&T, guys, but Discovery also, because it is going to be then Warner Discovery, one of the largest media entertainment companies out there. Obviously, a great focus on their streaming product, whether it be HBO Max, Discovery Plus, or what will be the combination thereof. And this idea that, remember, it's all a spinoff. So if you're an AT&T shareholder, you're going to be getting these Warner Discovery shares. And the question is, do you sell them right away? So-called flow back is what people call it. And that conceivably could put a lot of pressure on the shares, which may be one reason why buyers have not moved strongly into them at this point. But we'll see. Are there going to be others that they have set up to potentially be there to help them withstand what might be that storm of selling? Or maybe retail holds on to it. A lot of questions there in terms of the positioning.
I think retail is still shaken by the dividend cut.
At AT&T?
Yes.
At AT&T, yeah.
Because AT&T, the reason why people owned it, the same reason why when I have Hans Vesberg going from Verizon, and he talks about growth, people want it for the dividend. And you cut the dividend. There's still a lot of people who don't even realize the dividend's been cut because it was obscured rather well.
Right. Although you back into a yield now that's not that bad. That's fairly competitive still, Jim.
Well, how did it get to be not that bad?
Because the stock came down, yeah.
No, but I'm saying it wasn't because they added.
No, but I'm just saying right now.
There's so many dividend boosters. Why do I need to be in a company that cut the dividend? The dividend boosters are just... Qualcomm's going to take that dividend up gigantically. But, oh, no, Qualcomm is levered to cell phones. Oh, AT&T, let's buy AT&T. Not levered to cell phones? Big-time cell phone. DirecTV, David has early on identified DirecTV as one of the worst acquisitions ever. You were like that morning.
Yes.
How did you know?
I had a lot of questions that weren't answered. That's how I knew. And management couldn't answer them, at least to the point where I understood what they were saying. It was a lot of gibberish.
It was genuine AT&T gibberish?
Yeah, it was. I remember those conversations. What? Ads? What? I don't quite understand what you're talking about. And we all wondered whether it was simply done to support the dividend, to your point. Well, obviously, Mike White did a great deal. He was the CEO of Direct.
Mike White.
He got out at the right time. I mean, look at that asset now and look what's happened to it.
I am surprised that you did not mention, parent company of this network, the valuation of Comcast.
Yes.
Actually, yeah. Relative to the S&P, got to go back years. I think it was Morgan Stanley yesterday. They still got a 60 target.
Well, that was some piece. I mean, look, I don't want to talk up the network, but it does seem that it was too.
It's about 13 times. It's well below the S&P multiple, as Carl just said, and that was noted.
Good balance sheet.
True, although questions about the cable business to a certain extent. Same thing I asked Maffei yesterday. They own 26%, of course, of Charter. Questions about, whether or not 5G is going to in some way compete, or even some of these other services that are out there, Starlink or the Amazon thing, even though they're meant for more rural areas that don't have as much coverage. Questions about Peacock and how much is going to be spent there.
Shoot, you're all over this.
There's a lot of questions. By the way, the bigger question is, if Warner Discovery doesn't work, a year from now we're looking at it and you're talking and saying, well, I don't know about this, then you'd have to wonder whether, in fact, Comcast is going to have interest in trying to come back again. Remember,
they're thinking about blocking Microsoft.
There's no voting
AT&T.
stop there.